So, charms and curio augments make sharing armor sets online a total nightmare. Sharing ideas is good, but because people have a massive variance in possible charms or curio augments on their armor, it ultimately means that you've got to take that knowledge and tweak it to make it fit what you can actually build. This is a guide to taking armor sets and translating them into the best similar set that you can make, and this will also help you optimize armor sets that you come up with yourself, as it's possible that what weapon/armor set is best for one person's charm is going to be completely different for another person who has a different set of charms and curio augments available. So the process of optimizing a set is actually really easy. You take the key skills / the non-damage skills to a website like monsterhunterrise.wikidb.com, and you plug the skills into the armor set searcher. Then you start adding extra damage skills until the set can't fit anything else. Figuring out which skills to add is also very easy. You just find a damage calculator, then you test out the possible combinations of skills that you can fit in, and eventually you'll find the best option. But actually, that's all kind of difficult if you don't know what you're doing. It's tough to find useful tools online, let alone using them effectively. And even then, it's a lot of man hours messing around with skills before you start getting a feel of what skills are going to be good in what amounts. Unfortunately, I can't give you an easy list like get weakness exploit 3, then max out your attack boost, then add critical element, and finally add charge master. Because what skills you want is different depending on each lance, how much space you've got left on your armor set, and what other playstyle affecting skills that you're using. Ultimately, the tough truth is that I cannot replace you using the tools and bashing it out in all cases. So I strongly recommend that you use them to figure out what's the strongest set of skills for your specific case. But what I can give you are some general rules to follow that will help you in 90%, the overwhelming majority of situations that you'll be in when crafting armor sets. So, general rules. What skills do you want to add onto your sets? These are all going to be damage skills. Non-damage skills like evasion, guard, stun resistance all have their place, but you should look at those as a do I need / want that skill on my armor set? And if the answer is yes, then you should add that as a required part of the set. Think about it as if you're making a blueprint for the armor set. You'll have a list of stuff that is absolutely required to make it, and then you'll have the extra space that's left for optimization. There'd be no point making an armor set with 3 points of guard only to optimize the 3 points of guard off of the set later on in the process. And that's why it's important to think about the non-damage skills that you want early on in the process of set building and to lock them in. That said, there are ways to optimize non-damage skills. If we think about guard versus embolden, or earplugs versus defiance, these skills will compete with each other. So picking one that you prefer, or the one that is most cost efficient, is going to be beneficial for your armor set. We've also got the looser examples, like the age-old earplugs versus evasion argument, where evasion will help you deal with roars, kind of like earplugs do, but require you to dodge to make that happen. The main point to consider is that evasion also gives you the benefit outside of when the monster is roaring, making it more useful overall, unlike earplugs that can only help when the monster roars. I won't get into the depths of it, but it's worth thinking about what kind of skills you're bringing, and if they can cover other aspects of the fight to prevent overlapping the benefits of the skills that you're using. Because if you're already using evasion, then using evasion to deal with roars, as well as to help you iframe monster attacks, would allow you to remove earplugs from your armor set and use that space for other beneficial skills. Although, just to make it clear, earplugs isn't a bad skill, and if you have a specific reason to pick it over Defiance or over Evasion, that's good, because you've thought about it and you've got a reason why you need earplugs. Tangent over. Here is a rough list of what skills and in what priority you should add them to a set. Firstly, we've got skills like Bloodlust, Dereliction, Dragonheart, Mail of Hellfire, Build Up Boost, Adrenaline Rush, possibly Grinder S, Status Trigger. I look at these skills as playstyle skills. It's worth thinking about which of these skills you're happy to commit to, as they impose significant penalties / playstyle requirements. A lot of them are very strong and worth using, but it's worth looking at them and thinking about them early on, as most of them are also locked onto armor pieces. So deciding to add in Dereliction late into the armor making process is going to be quite tough, because you'll have to change armor pieces around. Right then, Weakness Exploit and Critical Boost are the first must-have skills. If you've not got them on your armor set, then you'll want to add them straight away. Offensive Guard also falls into this category, assuming that you're not playing Evade Lance. And on a broader topic, there are similar skills for different weapons that are simply so good that you'd be an idiot not to have them on your set. Quick Sheath for Longsword and Rapid Morph for Switch Axe come to mind. The next step is increasing affinity, so maxing out your affinity to reach 100% with all the conditionals such as Bloodlust, Weakness Exploit. There are some awkward fine-tuning around 7 attack versus 7 critical eye, as both skills are backloaded, which means that 7 points of attack boost is going to be better than using 7 points of critical eye and not making full use of that backloaded affinity. So if you hit 100% affinity before using all of the critical eye's affinity, then attack boost is going to be your priority over critical eye. But if not, then you want to prioritize critical eye and then attacks boost. Once you've maxed out your affinity and attack boost, you'll want to move on to the conditional skills. All of these skills are really powerful, and to a certain level can be better than critical eye or attack boost if you can't reach the latter skills' breakpoints, but for the most part you'll want to add these after you've maxed out both attack and your critical eye. The value of these skills individually are really volatile. Agitator is a really strong skill, and against monsters that get angry a lot, it can be used as a replacement for critical eye while also increasing your attack. But it works less consistently for afflicted monsters, where your agitator uptime is at best 60%, making it difficult to use as a replacement for critical eye, and less useful than the other conditional skills as a whole. Other skills, like Coalescence, Resentment, and Resuscitate, work incredibly well when paired with certain playstyle skills, like Bloodlust, Dereliction, and Dragonheart, as those skills help trigger the conditional skills without needing monster intervention. You've also got Foray, and it's in this category, but its activation requirement is more difficult than the other conditional skills. I guess it's a good point to mention the difference between paper maths and real maths. On paper, Foray is a really good skill for the current meta, but actually using it in the fight gets a bit sketchy. Foray can still be an amazing skill in practice, but you need to test the armor sets that you've made out to see if they actually work with Foray. If you can fit all of the applicable conditional skills that would work with the rest of your armor set, the next best thing to do would be to start stacking element. Although it's never quite this simple, we've got element attack decorations as level 1 slots, so for the most part they aren't competing with the other skills. But it's also doubly complicated, as at current we've got elemental attack decorations that increase the skill by many points per 3 or 4 slot, compared to the other skills that for the most part are only giving 1 point per decoration slot. What this means is that you've got to compare 1 extra point of resentment to 3 to 4 points of element attack. And for the most part, 3 element will be better than 1 point of resentment, or even critical eye in some cases, but it won't always be, so you will just have to test it out when you reach this point. There is also more strangeness when we talk about 1-point wonder skills. Skills like Coalescence, Burst, previously known as Chain Crit, Dereliction, Build-Up Boost, or Bloodlust, they're all skills that are front-loaded. What this means is that adding 1 point of them is more efficient than adding all points of them. Basically, it's better to use 1 point of Coalescence, Dereliction, and Bloodlust instead of 3 points of Dereliction. It doesn't make extra levels useless, as in a vacuum, it's better to have 2 points of Dereliction compared to having just 1 point of Dereliction. But the second level of the skill is significantly less competitive against other skills that could fill your armor space. So on the whole, you want to aim for 1 point of the 1-point wonder skills, and then get everything else before coming back to finish off the extra levels. Finally, we've got to talk about sharpness. With the lance, you'll be after about 120 hits of sharpness per area, so for the majority of lances, you'll need some form of sharpness protection. But deciding whether or not to invest in handicraft for prolonged purple rather than white can be difficult. From experience, if you can reach 30 units of purple with a single decoration slot, then handicraft is worth it. There are instances where going all the way to 4 levels of handicraft to reach that 30 units of purple is worth it, thanks to the new Handicraft Plus deco, but that's the edge, like the very, very fine edge of what's useful. Again, this is also weapon specific, so you'll have to figure it out by testing it yourself. Right then, let's go through an example of optimizing a set. This whole exercise is to help optimize around any set of charms or augments, so I'm going to go collect a round of charms and pretend that they're the only ones I have for this example. But I think I'm going to use the augmented armor that I already have, as re-rolling them would be a tad self-destructive. So, the first thing that we need to do is have a set to optimize. So let's make one up. Afflicted Rajang is a monster that I'm expecting to fight a lot to get his claws. So let's make a special armor set just around him. Rajang Laser Beam needs guard up to block it. So let's add that to the blueprint. And while we're there, his arms will make you bounce when they're red. So let's have a level of Mind's Eye, as bouncing on a high level Afflicted Rajang is A very dangerous thing indeed. I also don't want the example to look too similar to the standard meta set, so let's bring 2 points of blood right and 2 points of guard so that we can guard dash through a couple of his attacks. We'll also add 3 points of master's touch to protect our lance's sharpness, and if we combine all of those together, that'll create our list of required skills. We'll take this to plug into the armor set searcher, and I'll have a link to that in the description if you haven't come across it before. So plugging them in, we can see that we have a ton of space to fill. So let's start adding damage skills, starting from the top. Adding weakness exploit, critical boost, and offensive guard is easy. We're not planning on running bloodlust or dereliction, so we're going to want 7 levels of critical eye. So that's the next thing to add. And unfortunately, it seems like no results show up. So let's swap that for 7 points of attack and see if we can get all of that instead. Cool, that is possible. So next, let's try a mixture of attack and critical eye. The first breakpoint for our attack is 4 points. So let's try 4 attack and 2 critical eye. This is possible. So let's take those 2 possible options and then plug them into a calculator to check which is better. There are loads of damage calculators online, so let's go find one that's available to everyone. To make it clear, these tools aren't made by me, so if/when you go and use them, please be nice to the creators of them. They've done a wonderful job at making these tools, and they've been nice enough to share them with the community. So, be nice. So plugging these skills into the calculator, and unsurprisingly, getting all 7 points of attack is the better option, as you're reaching the final skill point where you get extra value per skill. Down the road, this might lead to issues, as not using any critical eye might cause a shortage of sharpness, as we're using Master's Touch to protect our purple. This is a good example of paper maths versus practical maths. We'll have to test the set and see if it actually has enough sharpness to make it through the area. Thankfully, just by checking if it's possible, we can claw back 2 extra points of critical eye alongside the 7 points of attack. Skills aren't made equal, so it's always worth checking, as sometimes you'll be able to get more critical eye than you can get attack, or vice versa, even if they have the same 2-slot value. This is going to limit us down to 2 armor sets, and realistically, it's going to be the best that we can get. However, we do have some space to slot in some extra level 1 decorations, so let's max out ice attack, as Rajang is weak to ice, and then we'll have one final level 1 slot to fill with whatever we want to fill with it, so go absolutely crazy. And that's the set, or rather, the process. And hopefully it's going to help you optimize just about anything that you want, really. If you liked the video, why not hit the like button? Subscribing to the channel will also really help me out, not to mention that it would let you see when the new videos are available. And finally, I want to thank you for watching. See you next time.